Hey, Michael.
Hey,
Hey, you ready to do another podcast? That'd be fun.
I am so ready.
All right, let's do it. Hello and welcome to Python Bytes, where we deliver Python news and headlines directly to your earbuds. This is episode 467, recorded January 26th, 2026. Ooh, that's a lot of 26s. All right, I'm Brian Ocken.
I'm Michael Kennedy.
And this episode is sponsored by all of us, all of you, and the products that we have going at Python Bytes, and I guess not at Python Bytes, but Talk Python training, and at pythontest.com. We've got the PyTest course and Lean TDD, but Michael's got courses and books and all sorts of fun stuff. And also, of course, Patreon supporters. We still love you. And if you'd like to connect with us and send us topics, maybe topics for the show, we love that. You can just send us through the contact form at pythonbytes.fm. But you can also find us on the socials. We're and the links are in the show notes. We're on Blue Sky and Mastodon. And if you'd like to see what we look like and watch us live or tape recorded, you can go to pythonbytes.fm/live and check out that, and it tells you when we're gonna show next time.
Yeah, they can even check out a glimpse of the Python staff of power just behind you there.
Yeah, it's right. It's there it is. Yeah. And I'm still on the fence about going to PyCon this year, and if I go to PyCon, I'll definitely bring the staff of power. So.
My fence has been built and decided upon. I bought my tickets, and I got actually a pretty amazing deal on Expedia. I was able to get 4 days hotel right near, a block or two from the convention center and the water, and a round trip flight for $600 total. So I'm going.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to ask work if I can get away with not having to take vacation time to go.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice? Hey, they talk about PyTest there. I know you're doing a lot with that.
Yeah. So, All right. Well, should we do some topics for the show?
Let's talk. Oh, I have the toad up. That is not what I want to talk about. I want to talk about this thing called the Gray Noise IP check. Okay. So Gray Noise is a company that does research on cyber security breaches, et cetera, right?
Yeah.
So they have published this thing called the Gray Noise IP check. And if you just go to check.labs.graynoise.io, or way simpler, click the link in the show notes, it will take you to this place that says your IP address is whatever your IP address is, and your IP address is clean. Your IP has not been observed scanning the internet or contained in the Common Business Services dataset. So what is this for? Like in the day of 30 things connected to your internet, your Wi-Fi, with your kids installing random junk off the internet. Like, my kid is pretty good. She says, "Dad, is it okay if I install this?" Yes, it's okay, or no. And she actually completely reformatted her Windows 11 machine so she could play games but not worry about what was installed on it. So, not knocking the kid or anything. But kids install stuff. Other people install stuff. Your TV, your smart power thing that goes to that lamp in the corner. There's a crap ton of stuff that is on your network. And even if you run some sort of virus check on your computer, having that come up empty doesn't mean that there's not a problem with things that you are in control of, right? So basically, the idea of this thing is you can go here and it will tell you if something on your network has been being bad.
Okay.
Yeah. And I don't know. For me, I thought that was pretty cool. So I threw it in as one of the topics so that other people can click on this and see. I guess a couple caveats. If your IP address just changed recently, it's very plausible that you could get a warning, and it was whoever had it before. You know what I mean? Like, we had a power outage for just a couple hours. I think I talked about this last time because my mic had gotten all resets because everything got powered 100% down because some sort of transformer thing exploded. Okay. We got a new IP address from then, right? But, a couple of weeks ago. And so it turns out that I guess things are still good. That's good to know. But if you just had your IP address change, then it could be picking up issues from whoever had it before, right? Kind of like you keep getting spam with that new phone number you got. Yeah, but these, I don't know about you, but my IP address is pretty much rock solid stable unless something goes wrong with the internet or with power, then it may change. But other than that, it's the same for quite a while.
I'm slightly embarrassed to say I usually don't know my IP address, and I actually don't quite get how. I mean, I get how IP addresses work, but like for a house, is your whole house like the same IP address, or uh, I don't know how that works. Also, like, can you use this like if you're at a cafe to check to see if there's other like bad actors there?
Yeah, I
Or-
guess you probably could actually. Yeah.
so yeah. Anyway, interesting. Okay, well, I'll have to
Yeah,
check it
and
out more.
I know more because I have a lot of my stuff gated behind IP addresses, like the server.
Yeah.
You can't even SSH to the server unless your IP address is on a whitelist. Right. So periodically when it changes, I'm like, oh, what is my IP address again? So then I go and copy it. I don't really pay too much attention, but because of that, I kind of gotta pay a little attention.
Yeah, I'm like a very cloud data in the cloud sort of person. So I guess.
Perfect. All right. Well, I'm very excited about this next topic that you have because I also saw it and said that is killer. Love it.
It is killer. Yeah. So what we're talking about is tprof. This is from or tprof. I think it's tprof. It's the targeting profiler from Adam Johnson. And we've got a link to the PyPA site. But it just mostly it says, yeah, it's a targeting profiler, but we're also going to link to his article introducing it, introducing tprof, a targeting profiler. So it almost speaks for itself. What he's talking about is if you run a profiler on your program, it gives you everything. And you want to do that at first to see all the hot spots. Where are you spending your time? And that's what you use profilers for, to see where you maybe could optimize some of your code. And and once you've pinpointed what you want to try to fix, then you want to try to measure that, and you kind of have to do. And his pain point was running it over the whole program again and again and again, and you don't really need to. So his is a targeting profiler, and you give it exactly the function that you're caring about, or the functions multiple, and it'll report what the times are, like the min and max and stuff. And then he went further and said, there's a lot of times where you're just going to want to do like a before and after function. um and it probably won't be before and after, but you can might like my search routine old and my search routine new, or something like that. And you can have those be targeted, and run the results and compare those.
Nice.
um
It's like a showdown, right? Instead of trying to remember the results, you just say, here's the old way, here's the new way.
yeah.
How'd that turn out, right?
And he's kind of got two ways to do it. You can do like so you can do pass to the functions that you want to look at on the command line. So you don't even have to actually change anything in your code to do this. You can just target a couple functions and call those. And then but you can also do a -x for a compare, and it'll do a delta time, like a percent faster or a percent slower, which is pretty cool. um, or you can and not have to do the command line thing too much, and just do he's a context manager. You can say which ones you're going to compare, and run those before and after with tprof. All of those are I'll probably use all of those at different times, but I'm really excited to try this, to use to optimize some code that I've been working on. So it's pretty
Yeah.
neat.
It apparently uses the new Python 3.12 profiling API, which is really nice. So a little using the modern lower touch profiler as well.
Yeah, so of course, so you have to run it with 312 or above, but that doesn't mean that the code that you're testing against is necessarily just 312 and above. It's just when you're running it, it'll be 312. So
You know what? 3.12 is almost obsolete. I'm serious. Like, how insane is that?
what?
I mean, 3.10 is the oldest that is even allowed. Like 3.9 is gone into like we don't even do security patches anymore.
Yeah,
It's
that's true.
3.10 is on the shadow, and then like it's 2 years till all that thing's gone. So it's not that old. I mean,
And
it's not that new. It's not that
we
big of
don't
a
even
stretch.
mention 2.7 anymore. The legacy.
So good. So good to be past those days, right? I
Yeah,
would
yeah.
also like to point out that this is just so good for profiling any real application, like any real application, because so much of what happens if you just like C profile, my particular app is all the time spent loading modules, all the time connecting to the database, and just all of the, setting up the login, that all the stuff that happens before you get to the one function you want to see what's going on, and then it stops, and you're like, the thing only takes 50 milliseconds, but I've got profiling for like 2 seconds.
Yeah.
And what is going on? It's just so lost in the noise. And then this one, you can just say, run it, let all that, just ignore all that junk. When you get to this function, start. When you're done with the function, stop. You know what I mean? I love
Yeah,
it.
and that's actually that part of it's overwhelming to me. Every time I've had to reach, I don't have to, it's like a lot of debugging tools. You don't have to reach for them all the time, but when you do, it's a little overwhelming to look at all that profiling output. So, and I
100%.
I still haven't got my head around flame graphs, but you know.
Yeah. Catch them. They're hot. No, I honestly, like the fact you just say, just profile this function, and that actually happens on the CLI. My profiling is back, baby. Like it's
Yeah.
just, I'm like, is it really worth trying to dig through all that overhead and junk and decide? Like, probably no, but now maybe it really
Yeah.
is.
Thanks,
I guess
Adam.
what? Yeah, thank you, Adam. And then one more thing is like, a lot of times, some things are slower the very, very first time they run. So it might be worth writing a function that actually like runs it a bunch of times, or runs it once before you get to it and then profile it. You know what I mean? Like just like, because it might be the module loading that actually overwhelms the compute, but that only happens once, or
Yeah, so
PYC compilation.
the context manager one would be great for that. Then you could just you could call both the new and the old function once, and
Exactly.
then do a loop and do like 100 times do the two.
Yeah,
compare.
that would be totally perfect. That would be really, really good. You know what we don't talk enough about though, Brian? Honestly, I mean,
What?
toads. Let's talk about toad.
Oh, I know, and we live in Oregon. We got them all over the place,
We do got them all over the
or
place.
frogs at least. I don't know if we have toads.
I don't. You know what? Rocket. No. Sorry, my dog is going crazy over there. We're going to maybe have to drag her out of here. So with Toad, this comes from Will McGugan, and it's kind of his next big thing that he's been working on since textual.
Okay.
And the idea is it's kind of like a UI for Claude Code type things. It actually works with something called OpenHands. It works with Claude Code. It works with Gemini CLI, probably others that I don't know about. When I first saw this, I'm like, okay, well, I already have a terminal. I can do this. Like, what? I'm not really entirely sure what I need this for. But the more I looked into it, it looks really quite neat. So if you go through, it obviously renders pictures. Well, apparently not there. It renders pictures. Like one of the pictures is the Mandelbrot set drawn.
Cool.
And it has like really nice, basically better input. For, like one of the challenges with things like Claude Code and Friends is you're just in the terminal. And so can you use the mouse to like select part of your text and cut it? No, it's the terminal, right? And the arrow keys work right and all those kinds of things. So it has a really nice, I'll just like put this little video in the background while it's going here. If I can get it to play. And it doesn't want to play. Well, it has like a really nice input for that kind of behavior, right? Has a nice little web server that runs. Let's see, got a few more. It uses fuzzy search, so something you do all the time, or should do all the time, and if you're not, you're totally missing out, is adding files of specific context to what you're working on. So you might say, hey, I'd like to work on the login page, and here are the notes that use the notes that I took. How well is it going to work? We don't know. You could say, I'd like to work on at login.html, and please see at login requirements.md, right? And you like that will actually pop up a select. And so this uses really nice like fuzzy search and UI drop downs in the terminal. Like I said, it's better prompt input. It uses, it has support for terminals within terminals. So if you ask it to run a command that does like complex terminal output, it will actually embed that, which is really sweet. So people should give this a look. I think it's pretty nice, Pip install, I believe.
I'm gonna check it out. Yeah.
No, curl. Curl install it. Get it. That's the new way, right? UV's showing us the way, but you can also UV tool install it if you prefer. And that's probably the way I would install it, because I already have scripts that basically manage all of my UV tools, check for updates, and so on. So check out Toad if you're doing like CLI, Cloud Code like things.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah.
Batrachain. Batrachain. I don't know. The curl is pulling it from a URL called BATRACHIAN.
Yeah.
Is that him?
That's where it's got it. Yeah, that's him.
Okay. Nice. Cool.
You even got your animated zoom. Oh yeah, it's got the codecs as well, Mistral. Unified experience for your terminal.
Nice.
Yeah, so this
page.
is cool. I don't know how this relates back to Toads, but it must in ways that I don't know. Well done. Well done, Will.
It was the ink blot. What do you see here? I see a toad.
Exactly.
Well, I want to talk about something that sort of AI related as well. So, Fast API just made. I'm linking to a merge request, but and we'll link to the actual page too. But in the contributing to Fast API page, there was a new change to talk about contribution instructions about LLM generated code and comments and automated tools for PRs. So I'm guessing that all Fast API at least, but probably all very popular projects are having a problem with people doing PRs that they really haven't spent that much time on the PR, but they want to get their name in or something. I don't know. But there's some really good highlight here, and it's not so. I'm bringing this up not just because of Fast API is awesome, and it is, but it's just sort of an interesting thing that we're having these sort of discussions, and this is a nice concise verbiage if you want to add some of this prose to your own project to say what is allowed and what's not. And so we'll link to the contributing guideline, developing, contributing, and there's an automated code and AI section. And the gist is you're encouraged to use AI tools to do things, whatever tools you have at hand to do things efficiently, but also know that there is human effort on the other end for the pull request. And they just basically want to make sure that you're not doing less effort than they have to do to just check it. So please put a person in the middle. So there's things like they will close things that look like automated pull requests from bots and whatever. And there's they have a section on human effort denial of service. Using automated tools and AI to submit PRs or comments that we have to carefully review and handle would be an equivalent of a denial of service attack on our human effort. It'd be very little effort for a person submitting the PR that generates a large amount of effort on our side. Please don't do that. So I think this is completely fair. And it said, we will block accounts that spam us with repeated automated PRs or comments. Use tools wisely. And a nice, what is this Spider-Man comment? Quote, with great power, tools comes great responsibility. So, I just think this was it was good on their part to throw this in of yes, use tools, but know that there's a human on the other side having to deal with it. So
Yeah. Keep it focused, right? Like, don't submit a 7,000 line PR and say, I made it better. You know, like, there was probably some small little part that need changed, and stay on target, right?
yeah, that's actually you. Now that you bring that up, it is very easy now to say, "Oh, I want to refactor this function to be a new." Like even without AI, I want to refactor this function to be a new function name, and it's going to change tons of code. That's still okay to do if it's focused, even if it hits like hundreds of files. If it's just that one thing, like separate those up so that code reviewers can go, "Oh yeah, you just changed that function name. That's fine." But if you
Yeah.
do that plus I formatted with black and plus I optimized this one function, that's terrible to combine those together. And unless
Yeah.
it's
And
your
AI it's very common for it to just churn through that kind of stuff and generate a bunch of changes. The curl team actually has blocked all AI contributions, period, for the same reason. It's like, this is out of control. We're not doing it.
I got a weird request for a private repository or like to when I was starting the PyTest course, I kicked around the idea of having a GitHub group or whatever those are, organization for testing code. I decided not to, but it's that organization still has some of the private code I used for the course, and I had somebody request me to give it Claude access to my private notes. I'm like, no, I'm not going to do that. No, but anyway.
I'll share one really quick, weird Claude plus GitHub thing while we're on the topic. Then we'll move on. I am working on this project that I was doing something with Claude Code on, or this feature, and I had created a GitHub issue with a lot of notes for myself about it on GitHub, but I didn't connect Claude Code to it or anything. And then I was like, hey, Claude, let's just brainstorm about what it would look like in this code base to add this feature. And it takes a second and it goes, I see that you've considered this, this, and this. And now that I've got that background, I think this, I'm like, how do you know that? What it had done is I had the GitHub, the GH CLI installed on my computer. And so it used GH to go explore the GitHub repository and find the issue. Like issue 1274 or something. Yeah, issue 1274 said you wanted to do it this way. I'm like, okay, that is insane that it just got in there. I didn't ask it to, you know what I mean? Yeah, anyway.
Do I want GH on my computer?
I'm like, how did it figure that out? It shouldn't have access to that information, but it's okay. How about we move on? Extra time.
Yeah. Do you have any extras?
Yeah, sure. I got a couple, and then we can flip over to you. So, first of all, remember Henry Schreiner pointed out that you can use compile-bytecode as a flag to UV. Yeah. And it points out in the UV docs here that UV does not compile PY files to bytecode in the Dunder PyCache startup PYC file. Instead, that is lazily done at module import. And that really got my attention because all of the Docker deployments that we do, for example, Python Bytes runs on Docker. So when I deploy a new version of Python Bytes.fm, what happens? It compiles the code, installs the dependencies with UV, and then it there's other stuff, but like effectively, then it just starts Granian running Python Bytes, right, as a Quart app. And from the time that it actually starting till it's all the way started, like the website is unavailable, right? Yeah. Because it's not some super complicated Kubernetes thing. It just restarts the Docker container. And for me, for the extra simplicity of like having 1 to 2 seconds of downtime per couple times a week is totally fine. But what I realized when Henry said that, and you talked about UV not compiling these things, that actually means it's got to, every time I start the Docker container, literally every time, it has to compile the PYC files for every library that it uses. And it uses like well over 50. There's a lot of libraries for these web apps, right? Yeah. And I'm like, wow, okay, so there's no scenario where it will ever not have to generate those on app start, right? Because I don't ever shut down the Docker container and start it again. The only reason the Docker container will ever shut down is because it needs a new version of code or dependencies. So it rebuilds the container from scratch using layers, and then it will bring that back up. So I added -- compile-bytecode to all of the UV installs, because I don't care if the build time is 1 second slower, if that means the actual launch time, which involves downtime, is 1 second faster.
Okay,
Anyway.
does this this pre-compile thing happen then at the time you're building the Docker image?
Yes, which has
Okay.
nothing to do with the like uptime or anything. Like it does. It's not until you say restart the Docker container with the new image that it actually shuts down the old one and starts the new one. So I make the build time 1 second slower, but the launch time 1 second faster, which is awesome.
And it
Yeah.
probably makes like what the Docker image a little bit bigger, but who
Probably.
cares?
Yeah, probably. But it would have, I guess it does make the image a little bit bigger, but I'm not shipping it to Docker Hub and back, so I don't really care.
Yeah.
Just build
I mean, even if you were, it's 1 second faster to do the flip over. It's great.
I think it's all it is
definitely
just
worth it.
include -- compile -bytecode on your UV install stuff. Yeah, sweet. So thanks everyone, you and Henry and whoever else. Okay, 2 things real quick. I talked about the MCP server for TalkPython and how that works, but I did a nice little write-up about it over on the TalkPython blog. So I just want to point people to that proper write-up, which like has some background on the MCP server and the LLMs.txt information there. And another thing, Brian, people sent me a message and said, so let me get this right. You just recounted the story of Tailwind CSS getting destroyed by AI, and then you purposefully added AI stuff to TalkPython. Are you insane? I said, well, okay, maybe, but I don't think so. So I also wrote a blog post on my personal blog about why I think hiding from AI, blocking AI crawlers is probably not going to serve you in the long term, and why that I added these things. So gave my background on why I thought that was worth doing. So people are like Michael's kind of got 2 contradicting thoughts in his mind at the same time. Well,
I don't think
here's
it's
the background.
contradictory though. I think it would be like doing AI, having an AI generated thing on all of the content of TalkPython training.
Yeah.
And you wouldn't do that because that's what you make money off of. So
exactly. This stuff is basically, I'm saying if you have content you would like in Google, you probably want it in AI indexes as well.
Yeah.
If it's something you don't want publicly available in Google, then you probably don't want it here as well, right? But this is like assuming you want to show up in search results for regular search engines, you probably do with these. And also, just really quick while we're on it, like putting in the MCP sort of stuff here means it turns questions like, hey, what guests were on the show? Or what was this episode about? Or maybe I could find the transcripts for a page or whatever. It turns that from scraping my website and hitting tons of code to database index single queries for a small fragment of text. So if the AI is going to ask questions anyway, this is way less harm on my server, if you will, than otherwise.
Hopefully they do that instead of doing both, though.
Yeah, I know.
The other thing is, so do you have to? Is this a process now? You have to keep this updated on a weekly basis, or
no? It's all just driven by the database.
Okay.
So yeah, and if you look at the my personal post version, you can actually see some pictures of like how Claude.ai, the chatbot, is using. So I'll ask it like, what are the last 5 episodes? You can see it's actually calling the API endpoint, getting recent episodes, and then, or if you ask it more, it'll like search, and then based on the search results, it'll get the details and so on.
Yeah, one of my next projects is to, or in the near future, is to try to build one of these for internal stuff so that internal tools can see internal APIs.
Yeah, it's very neat, and it's not that hard. Also, you don't need a whole framework like Fast MCP or one of these things. It's like just a couple of simple web requests. Like it's not like implementing your own web sockets or something. You can just add it to any website. It's super easy.
Cool. All right. Any other extras?
Nope. Over to you.
Okay. Let's see. What do I got? I got a few. Do you remember Dig?
I do.
Dig is back. Which and I'm linking to a TechCrunch article, and there's a bunch of articles on it, but it just I did a quick skim. Basically, they're trying to be what Dig used to be, but not sucky. And also it's some interesting people. Kevin Rose from and one of the co-founders from Reddit are putting it together.
Interesting.
And yeah. Anyway, I'll be interested to watch to see if it becomes a something that we should care about. But anyway, interesting article. Also, there's a Python community in there. Just started. There's 99 members. That's 99 members of Python in the world. No, there's more, but on the Dig community, and is put together by somebody that actually the same person that sent it to us and said, "Hey," so this Wigging person sent it to us, which is great, and also talked about us. Python Bytes podcast, yay! So
yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's awesome.
Another interesting article I ran across was from Marek. Why lightweight websites may one day save your life, but basically just ode to lightweight websites. And this is a lot to do with if the intent is for people to be able to use your website, even if they're on a cell phone, even if they have like a bad connection, then lightweight websites are a must. That's just basically it. Think about your target audience. If your target audience is on the move, make it light and fast. Obvious. Last shout out to Wiz to a article called "How to Parameterize Exception Testing in Python in PyTest," and I'm gonna let it. I'm glad people are still writing articles about PyTest, and I'm gonna let it slide that he did the capitalization wrong. No capitals in PyTest. Anyway,
it's fine. You can fix it if you just right click on that and say inspect. You can fix his website. You didn't know if you could edit other people's sites, but
you just pay. Really?
Last right now. Well, for you, but then if you reload it or anyone else, it doesn't change.
The trick here, which is cool, is he's parameterizing whether or not something raises an exception, and he's using a thing from context lib called null context, and importing it and changing its name to does not raise. And this is brilliant because this is very clear code to say, yeah, these cases that shouldn't raise an exception. Other cases should be a zero division error or a type error or whatever. Obviously, you're not going to write a test to test division exceptions, but to test your own code to make sure that it's raising the right exceptions, yeah, and throwing in a couple of cases for when it doesn't raise. This is good, clean code and short article, so I like it.
It's a very clean code. I would have not seen that coming. That's pretty good. It's very, very good.
Well, that's it. Do we have something funny?
This last thing here, this joke is really here basically for you, Brian. This was sent in by Pat Decker, I believe, and I think it's good. I think you'll appreciate this coming from a testing perspective, okay?
Okay.
So this was on Reddit, and the idea here is two developers talking, or maybe project manager, I don't know, says, your new date picker widget has crashed. Really? That's impossible. I've tested it with negative numbers, special characters, null. What have you put in it? A date?
Yes.
Whoops.
Yeah, forgot the base case.
So busy testing all the edge cases and the area conditions that forgot to see if it even worked.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a weird thing. I think that there's so many people like think that testing is just about like the complicated edge cases, but you got to get the happy path first and make sure those work also.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's funny.
Pretty good one. Pretty good.
Yeah. You've heard that tester walks into the bar, right? Yeah.
I think so, but give me your variant.
I'll just a bad memory, but tester walks into tester walks into a bar and orders a half a beer and 1.5 beers and a negative beer and a million beers to see what happens, and everything works fine.
I thought the bar caught on fire.
Actual customer comes into the bar and orders 1 beer and bar catches on fire.
There you go. There you go.
Like that.
It's beautiful. It's
Anyway.
a beautiful thing. It's a it's like a fable that tells the moral story of testing.
Yeah. And then my dad joke version, of course. The guy walks into a bar and says, "Ow."
All right. It does hurt. Different kind of bar.
Sorry. Spoiled your joke, but anyway. All right. That another fun episode. Talk to you guys next week.
Bye, y'all.